Hello and welcome to Caesar's Snack Sandwich. Today I'm going to take a quick look at Fluidity. Okay, now Fluidity is a very new style protocol. It's very innovative. It's something that I've never seen before and nobody's ever built before. Now, it's trying to solve a problem in DeFi it is there. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what DeFi currently does, and then we'll see how this comes into play. Currently, DeFi mostly incentivizes people to put their money into DeFi. So you take your US dollars or your whatever dollars you have, and you bring them into DeFi and you place them there, and then people could use them. So for example, you could put it in Uniswap or Curve, and then people could trade your tokens, right? And you would get incentivized for doing so through trading fees as well as governance tokens. The second is like something like a lender where, you could put it in Iron Bank or Compound or something, and then you could then borrow those tokens. Other people could borrow those tokens and pay you interest. So it's great the way it is, but this protocol is trying to add a reason for an incentive to incentivize a different use case. Okay, instead of giving governance tokens to people who put their money into DeFi, they're going to give money to people who use tokens. Okay, it's very unique, and I do have a flowchart for you to kind of explain to you how it works. But this is kind of what the website looks like right now, and there's like a reward pool and a swap where you can swap, USDC for FUSDC. So it's a wrapper, kind of these fluid tokens. So let's swing over to the flowchart, and then you'll have a pretty good understanding what's going on, and then you can dig deeper on your own. Okay, so here we have Dollar Bill and his brother Boosted Bill, right? And Dollar Bill has some USDC, and Boosted Bill, he wants to get boosted somehow, so he needs to get some USDC from his brother. Maybe call him up and say, hey, can you send me some USDC? Now, the use case is already there. These people already want to send tokens from Dollar Bill to Boosted Bill. This need is already there. So Fluidity builds on top of that and goes into the middle of this kind of need. Okay. Now that's not the only need. There could be, Dollar Bill just wants to swap USDC for some governance token to speculate or any kind of use case. Okay. So the first thing Dollar Bill needs to do is he needs to wrap the tokens, like I said. So he puts USDC into the Fluidity, and he gets FUSDC, right? Now it's a fluid version of it. They're always worth 1-to-1. There's no interest bearing. There's no yield inside this token. It will always be wrapped 1-to-1 both ways. Okay, there might be arbitrage opportunities out in DeFi as the price of FUSDC changes, and then you could arbitrage this 1-to-1 wrapper with the LP token, but there's going to be bots doing that already, so it'll probably stay on peg, I would think. Now, so it wraps the USDC and gets FUSDC, right? Now, what Fluidity then does is it takes that USDC that's in the contract and it puts it into some sort of yield-bearing strategy. So currently they talk about Solend and Compound, but they do mention that they could use it somewhere else, okay? So they put it inside there and they gain some yield because now these protocols are then lending that yield out, right? Now they take this yield and they wrap it as Fluidity tokens and put it into some sort of pool. I'm not sure if this happens first or if it happens second. I haven't really looked into the contracts, but it is important that these USDC will be wrapped to FUSDC at some point. Okay, so the next thing that would happen is then Dollar Bill would send his FUSD over to his brother, right? And then his brother could do with that FUSDC as he pleases. But occasionally, these earnings that were wrapped up inside here, they might win a prize. So it's kind of a random lottery generation. So you're not going to get paid every time you send a transaction, but occasionally you will win a big prize. Now they want to incentivize both sides, right? They want to incentivize the person to actually say, hey, I want to send you this FUSD. But they also want to incentivize the receiver to adopt this FUSDC as a valid token that he wants. So they're going to give 80% of that winnings, that prize pot to this guy here, Dollar Bill, and 20% to his brother for accepting this token as a receivable token. Now, this comes into play pretty big with a lot of things, because you could think you could replace dollar bill or boosted bill with like a yield aggregator or something. And then the yield aggregator says, oh, I have a possibility of winning, or maybe I can win and share that with the person who's making the swap through my yield aggregator. And then they will route through like certain, they will accept this token as a use more readily. Okay. Now, some of you might be thinking, oh, there's a bot. What if I just send millions and millions of microtransactions, how then the bot can just win everything, right? So the idea is that this calculation here, I'm not going to go into the math of how this calculation works. You can read the docs, it's in there, but it takes into account the gas fee of sending the transaction, the trading fees of any platform that it's being used, or some sort of platform fee. It takes into account these fees and makes sure that the fees are larger than the winnings, okay? So that if a bot were to try to just, attack this and send massive amounts of microtransactions, they would pay more in fees than they would win. Now, that's why I emphasized at the start of this video that this need is already here. Dollar Bill already wants to send his brother Boosted Bill these tokens. So it's just, he could do it normally, just send USDC to his brother, or he could send this FUSDC and maybe win some extra money. So kind of like a rebate, right? Now these tokens are airdropped. So his balance of FUSDC will just go up, and his balance of FUSDC when he receives it will just go up. So it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty, it's easy to understand, and it's easy to use. Okay. Now there is one more thing I want to talk about, and that is what they're calling the fluidity wars. In DeFi, we currently have the liquidity wars, like Curve and Spirit Swap and all these different AMMs that, have these bribes and stuff like that to try to get people to put more liquidity. So they have these liquidity wars already in DeFi, and then they're going to have these fluidity wars if this protocol is adopted and used, right? So if we take a look at it, so we can gain platform governance fees for supplying. So we can basically get CRV rewards by supplying our tokens to Curve Finance. Here we can gain the platform, I've spelled this wrong, play from. So we can gain the platform fees. In this case, I'm going to call it fluidity. So we can gain fluidity tokens by using it. So fluidity might add fluidity tokens to certain use cases. Okay, so if you make this swap on a certain partner, a certain protocol, then you will also have fluidity governance tokens added into this, okay? And then there's bribes. So you can bribe on, if you have a bag of CRV and you've locked it, then people will bribe you for your vote to put on their pool. Here, if you have a bag of fluidity tokens, then you might get bribes to vote on putting the fluidity emissions onto this protocol's use case. So it will boost this like winning if you go through a certain platform. So if you supply on Compound instead of Iron Bank or something like this, right? Depending on how the curve wars work, the bribing, right? And then you also have this other case, gain project governance tokens for supply. So people sometimes take their own governance token and add it to the rewards on Curve Finance. So you might farm some CRV and some other governance token at the same time. So here you gain the project governance token for the use case. So maybe they're like, oh, if we want people to do swaps through Dodo, which is one of the partners working with these guys right now. So if you swap through Dodo, then you will get Dodo tokens as well as possibly winning these fluidity tokens. So that's kind of the use case here. This is kind of what we're talking about with these fluidity wars versus the curve wars. It's basically, instead of incentivizing supply again, we're incentivizing use of the platform. And now you know that use of platforms creates trading fees, which go back to governance tokens of those platforms. So projects do want both of these. I'm not saying this should replace the traditional DeFi system. This is to supplement it, to add to it. People should be incentivized to not only use protocols, but also to supply tokens to them. Okay, so that pretty much covers this. It's like a little quick overview of what's going to happen here and what this idea is. I think it's pretty interesting, and I like that it's innovative and it's new. And check out the links in the description, and you can go read some more about this. So thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.